This government wastes billions of dollars. We've got a $30 billion infrastructure bank that doesn't complete projects. We've got billions of dollars going to consultants, all the way down to foreign aid programs that fund gender-just rice production in Vietnam. I don't know too many Canadians that benefit from that.
No, look,
there's a lot of areas that we can cut to bring those deficits down so that more of your dollars doesn't have to go to bankers and bondholders.
I don't know how you guys all feel about the CBC. I'm not a fan. They're always pushing liberal propaganda, and times have never been more important. Now with the big budget coming that we don't know anything about other than we all are going to have to sacrifice, David Cochrane's going to be interviewing Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer here. Andrew Scheer is a funny guy, and he does make a couple of jokes in this one, but he demolishes David Cochrane, who is relentless. He is an awful hack. Let's take a look. It's almost funny if this wasn't real life. Let's take a peek. The CBC's got to go. Andrew Scheer does a great job in this one. And I guess David Cochrane does a good job from his perspective. He is a hack. Let's take a peek.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
Prime Minister Mark Carney needs the support of 3 opposition MPs to pass his first budget. So far, he does not have that guarantee, something the government House Leader says puts the chance of an early election in the hands of the opposition.
I don't think Canadians want a Christmas election. Mr. Carney, the Liberal Party, does not want a Christmas election, but it appears that Mr. Poilievre in particular perhaps would like to have a Christmas election.
Andrew Scheer is the Conservative House Leader. He was watching that clip there with Stephen McKinnon. You heard that. Does your leader want a Christmas election? Do you buy this line from Mr. McKinnon?
Well, I believe that it's the Liberals that are trying to use the conversation around their costly budget who want a costly election. Here we are a few days out of the budget presentation, and we should be talking about what should be in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Conservatives believe we should have an affordable budget so that Canadians can have an affordable life. We've called for a commitment to the Liberals to keep to their deficit promise of just $42 billion. It's already insanely high, but it certainly shouldn't be even higher. We've called for measures to reward work, to lower taxes on home building, to lower taxes on food to help bring grocery prices down. So we've kind of set out what we would like to see in the budget. It's up to the government. Every parliament I've ever been in that's been a minority government, it's been up to the government to work with opposition parties to put some things there that will be palatable, right. and that if there's speculation around an election, it's because the Liberals are driving that to distract from their terrible record and the suffering that Canadians are going through.
Well, where do things stand on your negotiations? Because I know Mr. Poilievre has laid out the deficit target, the end of the industrial carbon price, and other measures. These do not seem like things the Liberals will meet. Or are able to meet. So where do things stand in your negotiations at this point?
Well, all I'm aware of is that we've made our requests public. We've spelled out how we believe that, for example, taking the industrial carbon tax off will help lower food prices, because then farmers won't have to buy equipment that's subject to that carbon tax. They won't have to buy fertilizer that's subject to that carbon tax. We've talked about scrapping the Liberal fuel standards that add 17 cents a litre to the cost of gasoline. We've made those requests public, and I know that my leader Pierre Poilievre has had a one-on-one meeting with Mark Carney where he's kind of laid that out. So they know what we would like to see in the budget. We haven't gotten an advanced copy of it, or they haven't given us a sneak peek on various sections. So we're not sure what they're going to do with that. But we've certainly been very upfront and transparent on what we would like to see.
But the industrial carbon price is a very small part of the food inflation, right? According to a lot of the studies, it's somewhere between 0.5 to 0.8% of the increase, when it's been like 26% because of other global and climate factors.
Not global. You're talking about food prices.
Sure.
Food prices are, food inflation is a direct result of government taxation and monetary policy. And that's been pretty well established.
Well,
we grow a heck of a lot of food here.
Sure.
We sell way more than we import when it comes to food. And so if prices are going up, it's because the government has devalued.
Well, no, I mean, like the beef prices are up because of the drought several years ago, which led to less feed, which led to slaughtering of herds. There's just less, climate is affecting these things. Like it is a larger, there's larger inputs into the farm costs than just the industrial carbon price, because most of it's exempt. 97% of it's exempt.
Well, there's still the carbon tax on heavy equipment, and every farm in Saskatchewan will have at least a combine, at least a tractor, several grain trucks. The fertilizer is still subject to that. We use a lot of fertilizer in Canada. And I would also say these things stack. The Liberals also brought in packaging regulations that our trading partners don't have, that are kind of not based on common sense. That adds to the price. The 17 cents a liter on gasoline also absolutely affects not just food, but everything else. So these are measures that we've said, look, when 2.2 million Canadians are lining up at food banks under this Liberal government, we should be doing everything we can to lower those food prices. We would like to see some movement on that. It wasn't normal in Canada. When you and I were growing up, David, I don't think we knew too many people who had jobs who had to go to food banks. Usually the types of people that you saw going into food banks were people who had lost their job or unemployed for a significant period of time. We're hearing reports now from food banks themselves that people with jobs are leaving work, stopping off at the food bank because they can't afford to go to the grocery store on their way home. So we're calling for concrete measures that will lower the price of food. We think that's reasonable.
Okay, but again, there's no indication they're going to meet it. It seems unlikely they're going to meet it because what we've heard certainly on climate, while the emissions cap could be a casualty of the Carney administration, they do see industrial carbon pricing as a core component of meeting their climate goals. So that seems like it's here to stay. So if you don't get movement there, we had reporting earlier from JP Tasker and Kate McKenna that there's some conversations between your party and the New Democrats about finding a way to not trigger an election with maybe abstentions coming from the NDP. Now, Heather McPherson says she's not aware of any of that. You're the House Leader. Are you aware of any of those conversations?
Well, I don't think you called me over here in this studio with all these lights and cameras to talk about what's going on in public policy for me to comment on rumors. We're focused in the next few days. Instead of talking about what might happen the day of, we're still fighting to get those common sense measures put into the budget. We'd like to see, on behalf of Canadians, so that Canadians can have an affordable life, we'd like to see the government present an affordable budget. What does that mean? It means stop the inflationary deficits. Everything in Canada under Mark Carney has gotten worse than Justin Trudeau. We've got higher tariffs from more countries. Youth unemployment is worse today. Housing continues to be a massive problem. More and more people visiting food banks. We still have a few days before the government tables the budget, so we're using all our time and efforts to try to get them to adopt our common sense measures.
But are there conversations with the NDP about what to do about this? Because I don't know if your party, you're probably in the financial position to have an election. I don't know if you want to have an election, and I don't know if the Liberals want to have an election, but you get into these stare downs in Parliament and things can happen that nobody really wants. So are there conversations happening with the New Democrats, as my colleagues are reporting?
Our conversations around Parliament Hill, whether it relates to things happening in committee or piece of legislation in the House, is always to try to get better results for Canadian people. That's how our conversations entail. When we think that there's a great amendment that will improve a piece of government legislation, we try to find other parties that will partner with us because we think it'll benefit Canadians. That's the nature of the conversations. We're still in the mode of trying to get an affordable budget for Canadians. We're not playing the kind of speculative game about if then that or what if. We're still doing our job as Canadians elected us to hold this government to account, to highlight the failings that it has had, and then to offer concrete solutions to make life more affordable for Canadians.
You want the deficit kept to $42 billion, I believe is what it was in the fall economic statement last year. You've listened to what the Bank of Canada said this week and what the 5 big banks in Canada are saying this week. They think there needs to be government spending to juice the economy because of the structural damage being brought on by the tariffs coming from the White House. How could you get a deficit down to $42 billion? And I know that is an astronomically large number when there is this need to spend to jolt productivity and GDP in the face of what Trump is doing.
Well, first of all, everything I've heard from financial experts, from the independent parliamentary budget officer to the Bank of Canada governor, is that this government has a massive fiscal problem, and it's all related to spending. It's the delta between what the government takes in and what it spends. And all those deficits stack up year after year after year. And we are now in a position after 10 years of Liberal government where this government is spending more of your tax dollar, David, more of your tax dollar goes to service that debt. What does that mean? That means bankers and bondholders get paid the interest on the deficits that Liberal governments have been racking up. So that is the 5-alarm fire that independent financial experts have been ringing to warn Canadians. There's a lot that you can do to stimulate the economy on the tax reduction side. Our leader has called for many things that would stimulate work, that would reward work, cutting taxes on work, cutting taxes on home building, rewarding people who take risk, cutting capital gains taxes on Canadians who reinvest in Canada to help strengthen our economy and put Canada first. So these are all concrete measures that can absolutely have positive economic outputs. You talk about the deficit, where do you find the savings for that? This government wastes billions of dollars. We've got a $30 billion infrastructure bank that doesn't complete projects. We've got billions of dollars going to consultants, all the way down to foreign aid programs that fund gender-just rice production in Vietnam. I don't know too many Canadians that benefit from that.
No, look,
there's a lot of areas that we can cut to bring those deficits down, so that more of your dollars doesn't have to go to bankers and bondholders.
So Mr. Poilievre was asked earlier this week whether all of the MPs will vote as a bloc and vote against it. Will it be a whip vote for the Conservatives? You expect them to oppose this if they don't meet your conditions on carbon tax and deficit targets? Well,
despite what my NDP colleague said, we will wait and see what's in the budget. That's something that our leader has been clear. We've laid out what we'd like to see in the budget. We'll see what happens. We still have a few days to try to urge them. I hope it hasn't gone to the printers just yet. They might have some time to maybe put in a few edits if they finally see the light and realize that massive deficits year after year increase the cost for Canadians.
Just as the last 30 seconds, Mr. Scheer, your leader's going to give a speech tonight, a keynote speech in Toronto aimed at young Canadians titled "No More Sacrifice." This is a youth event. Are we going to hear new policy from your leader or new proposals from Pierre Poilievre tonight? Or is it, I know he's been on this for a while, or is it a bundling of that narrative? What should we expect there?
Well, I don't want to scoop the specifics, but what you're going to see is a hopeful message. We saw Mark Carney do an address to the nation. It was very gloomy and very bleak, and telling Canadians who have had to sacrifice so much already, that they have to sacrifice even more. I don't know too many young Canadians who have had to move back in with their parents or who still can't find a job as youth unemployment hits 15%, that they believe, and none of them tell me that they feel like that they have more to sacrifice. They don't have anything left to give. They've been hit hard by these Liberal policies, and what Conservatives are going to say, what Pierre Poilievre is going to say tonight is, with Conservatives, you have a hopeful future. You can have the kind of quality of life that your parents had. That's what Liberals have robbed young Canadians. It used to be in this country that every generation could be confident that they'd have a better quality of life than their parents. Under this Liberal government, that dream has ended, but Conservatives are going to restore that.
Okay, Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer, thank you for your time today,
Thanks
sir.
very much, David.
Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Stick a fork in that one, gang. It's done. David Cochrane, it's hard to tolerate. We've got more of him to show. The next video, I think, is also going to be David Cochrane. Should be interesting. Heather McPherson goes off. I've seen it already. It's crazy. Anyhow, she really puts not so much David Cochrane, but she puts Mark Carney in his place. Very interesting. That was a lot to tolerate. David Cochrane is hard on the head. CBC in general, they're always trying to dupe Canadians as much, at least, as the Liberals are. It's crazy. What are you going to do? Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Come and check out our live show. We cover all the question periods. Watch one of the other videos floating around here. Leave a comment. Smash the bell. Like, share, subscribe. That's it. Thank you all very much for watching. Till the next one. We'll catch you then.